Welcome to the Impressa Era podcast, a realm where intuition flows through real life and your personal power is celebrated. I'm your host, Queen Impressa, and together we'll explore tarot, self-mastery, sensuality, and aligned growth. Now take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode, baddies, where we're going to get real aligned and stop playing with our power like it's something outside of us instead of something that lives and breathes within us every single day. Today's conversation might shake some tables in the most loving way possible, and I'm going to keep it a bit shorter because I don't like to nag. I really don't. But I just want to be here to remind you, you know? So if you've been lighting your candles, setting your intentions, doing your rituals, saying your affirmations, and still sitting there wondering why nothing is hitting the way you expected it to, I need you to lean in a little closer because this episode is going to give you some truth that most people are too afraid to say out loud. I'm not here to waste anyone's time, so let's go ahead and get into it because a lot of you are doing everything that you think is right. You're following the steps, watching the videos, buying the tools that you may not even need, creating beautiful rituals. They look good, they feel good for a moment, and they give you a temporary sense of control. But when the results don't show up the way that you thought they would, suddenly it feels like something's broken. And I need you to hear me very clearly when I say this. It is not your magic that is failing you. It's not your tools that are betraying you, and it is definitely not the universe ignoring you. It's the fact that your energy and your alignment are not matching what you're asking for. What so many people don't realize is that spells are not some external force that swoops in and saves the day like fairy tales, because spells are amplifiers. They are extensions of us. They're tools that take whatever energy we're already holding and magnify it, which means if you're operating from doubt, fear, insecurity, or lack, all you're doing is ritualizing those emotions and sending them out louder and more consistently, and then wondering why the outcome feels the same instead of different. There's this deep misunderstanding in the spiritual community where people believe that if they just say the right words, light the candle at the right time, or follow the exact steps that somebody else posted, that everything is supposed to shift instantly. And while intention absolutely matters, I'm not saying that, what matters even more is who you are being while you're setting that intention. Because you cannot speak abundance into your life while you're embodying scarcity in your everyday choices. And you can't call in love while moving through the world guarded, closed off, and expecting disappointment at everywhere you turn. I want you to really sit with that for a moment because your energy is always telling the truth, even when your words are trying to convince you otherwise. And that is where the disconnect begins. Because you might be saying that you're ready for something new, something bigger, but your nervous system and your patterns and your beliefs are still anchored in this version of you that is so used to the lack, so used to settling. Now, let's talk a little bit about desperation versus embodiment, because this right here is one of the biggest reasons your spells are not landing the way you want them to. And I need you to hear this without taking it as judgment, but instead receiving it as clarity, because desperation energy feels like chasing, overthinking, constantly checking for results, and attaching your worth to whether or not something shows up. Embodiment, on the other hand, feels like stability and confidence, and a quiet knowing that's meant for you is already in motion, even when you can't see it yet with your own eyes. So when you're operating from that room of desperation, you're not allowing your manifestation to breathe. You're not allowing it to align with you naturally because you're gripping onto the manifestation so tightly that there's no space for you to actually come in. And energetically, that reads as a lack. It reads as not having, needing something to complete you. And the truth is that you do not manifest what you want. You manifest what you believe you already are. Which means if you're constantly feeling like you don't have it, you will continue to create experiences that reflect the exact feeling back to you. And I know I've said this in a couple of other podcast episodes that the universe is always going to say yes. but you want to ensure that what the universe is going to say yes to really does align with what you're looking for. Another thing that needs to be said, and I'm going to say it with love, and I promise I'm holding both of your hands now because I know these are hard topics, but everyone needs to hear it. So many people are consuming spirituality instead of actually living it. And there is a huge difference between the two because watching videos, saving posts, and trying every ritual you come across on TikTok doesn't create the transformation you're thinking it does. It's going to create confusion. And it creates even more inconsistency and keeps you in this cycle where you're always searching but never fully becoming. And I can attest, a couple of years ago when I first got onto TikTok, I was so obsessed with finding new things and learning new things that I had so many notebooks with notes, but I wasn't implementing them at all. I was just continuously taking notes. And while that might be a good tactic if you're in school, and you have a big test to take, life is the big test here. So if you're not actually putting those things into practice that you're learning, what good is it? So you have to ask yourself honestly, are you integrating what you're learning? Or are you just collecting that information and hoping that something sticks? Because your power doesn't come from how much you know, it comes from how deeply you embody what you know. And if you're not taking the time to actually align your actions, then your rituals will always feel like temporary bursts of happiness instead of lasting change. Now, let's get into timing because I know this is where a lot of frustration comes in, and I want to shift your thinking in a way that brings you back into your power instead of making you feel like something is being withheld from you. Just because something is not happening immediately doesn't mean it's not working. And it definitely does not mean that you did something wrong because there is a big difference between delay and preparation. And a lot of what you experience as delay is actually the process of you becoming that version of yourself that can hold exactly what you're asking for. Think about it like this. If everything you asked for showed up instantly without you having the capacity, the boundaries, the awareness, or the stability to sustain it, it would either fall apart just as quickly or overwhelm you to the point where, ironically, you push it away. So sometimes what feels like nothing is happening is actually everything aligning behind the scenes in a way that supports you long term instead of giving you something temporary. Then one of the last things that I want to touch on in this shorter podcast is that a lot of people always don't want to confront this, and that is spiritual bypassing. This is where you're using rituals, spells, and practices as a way to avoid doing the real work that is required in your physical life. And while spirituality can absolutely support you, that's 100%. It can guide you, it can empower you. It is not meant to replace accountability, communication, healing, or action. You can't expect a money ritual to fix your financial habits if you're not willing to look at your relationship with money. You can't expect a love spell to bring in a healthy relationship if you're being avoidant and not addressing your boundaries or your patterns. And you can't expect protection work to carry you if you're constantly placing yourself in environments that drain you and you ignore the signs that your intuition is giving you. Your rituals are meant to support your growth, not replace your responsibility. And when you start to understand that, everything begins to shift because you stop looking for something outside of you to save you and start recognizing that your power has always been within you, which I've been trying to tell y'all, waiting for you to actually use it in a way that is so consistent and aligned. So, what do you do instead? Because I never want to leave you with awareness without also giving you some sort of direction. And the first thing I need you to do is get clear, get very specific, not just on what you want, but on who you need to become in order to receive it. Because clarity without identity work will only take you so far. And once you understand the version of you that aligns with your desires, you can begin to make choices that reflect that version consistently. I also want you to simplify your practices because you don't need to be doing 10 different rituals every week in order to see results. The only thing that you need is consistency, intention, and presence. So choose a few practices that truly resonate with you and commit to them in a way that allows you to build a beautiful, real relationship with your spiritual work instead of constantly chasing the next thing or the next trend. Make sure that your actions in your physical life are supporting what you're asking for energetically, because manifestation is not just about what you feel or what you visualize, it's about what you do, how you move, and what you no longer tolerate. And when your actions and intentions become aligned, that's when things begin to flow in a way that feels so natural instead of forced. And finally, take care of your energy on a regular basis. We've already talked about cleansing in one of the past episodes. So it's not just when you're feeling like something is wrong, because your energy is the foundation of everything you're creating. And when you're intentional about protecting it and cleansing it, you're creating a space where your manifestations can just land and grow. So, to close out this episode, I want you to remember this: your magic has never been the problem, your power has never been lacking, and your ability to create the life you desire is still very much intact. But it requires you to meet your desires halfway, to do the work, to do the accountability, to become that version of yourself that is ready and open to receive what you've been asking for. So, the next time that you light a candle or you step into a ritual, I want you to ask yourself, am I in alignment with what I'm calling in? Because that question right there will change everything. So, until next time, stay powerful, stay intentional, and stop underestimating the magic that lives within you. Because once you truly align with it, there is nothing that can stand in your way. Bye, lovelies.